What's best for humankind? What's best for humankind is that we become an interplanetary species, and we first start by colonizing Mars.
Huh? What? Don't we have enough problems here on Earth? All I know is I'll give you more money to build more rockets, but I better get a free Tesla in return, huh? You know, it kind of feels good that even a billionaire type can get fired. I mean, wasn't he ousted from the first company he ever created? Didn't I hear that right? We'd never ask him to step down from this company, would we? Just as long as he doesn't overpromise and underdeliver. Mr. Musk, what's it like to be the real-life Tony Stark?
Mr. Musk? I'm sorry, I get that question so often that it doesn't even compute anymore.
Mr. Musk, what advice would you give to today's students?
My advice to young people would be to never give up. I mean, if you think about it, if you have a friend who works 30 hours a week, but you work, let's say, 50 hours a week, then who's going to get more accomplished? You are. You have the 50 hours a week.
Hey guys, my name is Jessica and I run an online tutoring business called PEZ Tutoring where I tutor middle and high school students in English literature and writing. I even tutor a few other age groups as well, but my primary focus is middle and high school because that's what I used to teach in public school. So one goal that I always strive for is to try to get my students to love reading. I think it's important to read for entertainment as well as to read to learn. I really want them to not just read because I have given them assignments or because their actual school has given them assignments, but because I want them to actually find something that they love so that they can continue to be lifelong readers. This month, I challenged them to read a biography, and I'll be honest, I haven't read a whole lot of biographies just because a lot of students and even myself has read a bunch of fiction. You know, fiction is just easier. Here are the bios that my students are reading, and here's the biography that I read. So that's probably why you clicked on this video. Let's get right to it. So what was my overall opinion of the book? I think I liked it. I think it's hard to love a biography because it's just simply a whole lot of truth in there. At least we hope it's a lot of truth. We're really reading biographies to learn, and one of the best things about this book is the fact that it almost didn't get written. The author, whose name is Ashley Vance, he actually pursued Musk over a course of time. Pursued him, that sounds weird, but he had to convince him to allow him to write the book about him. Musk, I guess he just didn't want, or he didn't feel the need, or just wasn't interested in a book about me. Why would I want a book written about me? There's a lot of information out there, or maybe he is a really busy guy. But eventually Musk caved in and said, okay, I'll sit down and have a few interviews with you. That just goes to show you, especially you students who are tempted sometimes to give up when things are difficult, as long as you're persistent, for the right reasons, you can accomplish what you really want to. Don't be worried about being told no. You're going to be told no a few times. Persistence is so often rewarded. Like most biographies, we start learning about Musk's childhood, and some of you might know he actually grew up in South Africa. Then later he goes on to Canada, of course later in the States. A lot of the times I've just lost steam while reading biographies just because a biography isn't just telling the juicy parts of somebody's life. If you want that, go listen to some of that Hollywood stuff, or even YouTube has some of that stuff. While you do get some insight into the actual personal life of Elon Musk, when I read, I was hearing a whole lot about all of his companies. You're going to find out mostly about the companies got started and what they do, and a bunch of names of some of the people that he's worked with are mentioned just simply because a lot of those people were interviewed. Sometimes I got I guess some of the slower parts for me were just when certain things are being talked about, particularly with the building of the rockets, and I just didn't quite know what was going on, but I plowed through because I'm like, okay, I'm learning a little bit. I don't have a science background or a physics background, so this was definitely a challenge for me to read. Quick pop quiz: which company has Elon Musk not had his hands in? Real quick, I want to talk about the writing style of the book. It was very readable. For me, the writing style can either make or break a biography. I mean, I've read biographies that were quite easy to read. I've read some that I quite frankly couldn't get through, maybe because like my mind wasn't mature enough. There's way too much background information. I want to hear about a person's life. I don't really care a whole lot about that person's parents or their grandparents. No offense, people. The book is easily readable. It has lines like, I wrote it down, like, the technology that Tesla's engineers displayed proved good enough to attract the attention of the big boys. So, you know, pretty easy. I would say most of this is written at about a maybe 8th to 10th grade level, but I would never recommend it for middle schoolers unless they're just obsessed with Elon Musk and they want to read parts of the book. One of the things I found a little bit, I guess challenging or just like less comfortable while reading was the fact that there are no page breaks. There are long chapters. We've got 11 chapters in the book, as well as quite a bit of background information at the end. Most of the time, you're not going to read long chapters all the way through. You're going to want to pause and take a break. There were times when I thought, I need to pause. I need to actually go work. I need to plan lessons. I need to get a snack, whatever. And there just wasn't a stopping point. That always bugs me. I'm kind of like, how hard is it just to create just a little page break, you know? I mean, I'm always going to come back to it, but it's fine. That's what good bookmarks are for. Comment below if you guys are one of those people that has to have a bookmark. I know I definitely use bookmarks. My students like to do this, and they leave the book on the table. I'm like, guys, that is not a good idea, because guess what? They lose their spot and you don't always remember what page you were on. Or you might be a dog ear person. I always kind of feel bad for the book when the book pages are being dog eared, but hey. I think it was great that Vance interviewed both lovers and haters of Musk. Like I said, there was quite a lot of information about his companies, and if you read this book, of course, you're gonna get what you want when it comes to getting the background on SpaceX and Tesla, and oh, something I didn't even know about, Solar City. Comment below if you have heard of Solar City, because it's kind of funny that you think you know a guy and then you realize, oh, he has a whole nother company. Wow. Basically, if you're engineer minded and you love outer space, you want to read this book. Even if you don't really like what Musk is trying to do, I think it's a good idea to read about the people that you don't agree with or you don't like. In fact, it's better that you know even more about them than the people that you do love, because you need to be able to explain why you don't agree with him. Oh, I don't like it. I don't like what he's doing. He's rich. I don't like him. He's weird. I don't like him. You need to know the facts. I guess it doesn't surprise me that much, but it did bother me to hear that he's kind of a slave driver when it comes to his workers, because he's intelligent and goal-oriented, and you know, he really wants to do things that no one has ever done, like begin colonizing Mars, shooting off rockets without NASA having to do it. He expects other people to have the same mindset as him, and a lot of people are like, oh, this is impossible. According to the book, if people told him things like, I'm sorry, we can't do this, we won't get this project done in time, that's impossible, you're asking too much, you're very likely to be fired. When I watch his interviews on YouTube and other sources, I just think that he doesn't come off as this Hellcat. He doesn't seem like he would really drive a person to sleep behind their desk at night, or, you know, like basically abandon their family for their job. I mean, I'm sure some of that is true. Really successful people can be difficult to work with. They can be difficult to be around simply because their goals are not the norm. They're not going to measure up with what normal average people are going to want. Most people want to go home after their ordinary work hours. But if you have goals, how else are you going to accomplish them? You're going to have to miss out on aspects of social life. I don't like the fact that he perhaps was expecting people to put his goals and his job and, you know, SpaceX, Tesla, whatever. I don't love that he was expecting them to put that first and foremost in their life. But then again, if you sign up for that kind of job, you have to know what you're getting into. So after reading this book, I'm really left wondering, is Elon Musk just an incredibly gifted and talented, driven guy who wants people to be like him? Another thing you're going to learn when you read this book is that Elon Musk does not suffer a fool. And that just simply means if he's just hearing just a bunch of cleaning or a bunch of crap, or maybe just a lot of, you know, silly speak, maybe the average person puts up with that, but he just won't. Maybe he can't handle it or something. So, I mean, I saw that phrase in the book more than once. Elon does not suffer a fool. And I thought, I don't think teachers can be that way simply because we take students who might have, you know, naive tendencies and such, and we're patient with them. But I guess if you're a rocket scientist, you're not thinking along those lines. You're like, I know what I have to do, and I don't have time to listen to all this silly stuff that's not being helpful or that's not constructive. I tell you one thing that he does, and that Even me as a small business owner, I'm not sure I could do this. Even as a college age kid, he was willing to raise funds. And if you're going to start a business, most businesses require some type of capital. You know, starting an online tutoring business like I did honestly required very little money up front, especially since I already had a lot of items because I'd been teaching in the classroom. But if you're trying to do anything huge, like the online banking that he started with, the website that eventually became PayPal, he needed like big time investors. And I couldn't imagine trying to meet with investors saying, I need you to invest $200,000 in my tutoring company. I mean, not all learning is free or should be free, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's usually if you're developing a huge service or a huge product, like a multi-million-dollar business requires a lot of investors. And I was really impressed by how many people are actually doing that. And Silicon Valley is mentioned over and over and over again. And I guess when I think of Silicon Valley in that area of California, I tend to think of Steve Jobs. And at a certain point, you cannot compare Elon Musk to Steve Jobs just because their products are different, their goals are different. One thing that actually annoys me and makes me feel sorry for Elon Musk is the fact that he's constantly being hit with that question of what's it like to be the real life Tony Stark? Like, that's just a pandering question. Tony Stark, I'm sorry, I love Iron Man, but Tony Stark is not a real person. Elon Musk is not Tony Stark. Perhaps, you know, they have some similarities in their startups and their huge success, and he's very sciencey and techie minded. But for goodness sake, I wish reporters were watching this now so I could say, please don't ask him that. If I ever see him in person, I am not going to ask him that. I probably won't say anything. I'll probably be like scared to death. No, I'll be like, please let me teach your children. I promise I know what I'm doing. I do feel like the book just sort of ended. I don't know. I feel like there wasn't a lot of closure simply because you have all these sections at the end. You have the epilogue, you have Appendix 1, Appendix 2, and what you're going to find in the appendix is already listed in the footnotes. I did like the footnotes. They have that little asterisk and you can read the extra information below just to kind of see what's going on. I'm not really getting into the nitty-gritty details of the book simply because if you really want to read this book, you're going to go get it. Get it from the library, get it on Amazon. Is anybody interested in buying a Tesla now? I'm gonna get one. I think I want to get one in a few years, as long as it makes sense for the area I live in and as long as it's feasible with like charging stations and such. My favorite part of the book was just reading about Tesla, just because that's probably what I knew about the most. You know, SpaceX and rockets, that's cool, but it's pretty distant from what I'm actually doing. The car thing, that's what everybody likes. That's what everybody understands. And, you know, compared to other electric cars that are out there in the market or hybrids, the Tesla just seems to have, I mean, Musk was thinking about electric cars long before, I mean, like at age 18, this wasn't just some fluke. He really is interested in it. But, you know, I think the primary thing he really wants to do is get people to Mars, which like sounds like, at first I'm like, no, that's absolutely ludicrous. I mean, we all saw The Martian and how harsh that environment was. I don't know, like, maybe I would want to go out there and live. I don't know. Comment below if you want to live on Mars, or if you would ever consider living on Mars, or even if you don't want to live there and you think it's insane and we should stick to our own planet, because I think that's what a lot of people think. Another thing I've learned from reading this biography is just that he really, truly, and fervently believes in what he's doing. He really feels that the best future for mankind is to start becoming that interplanetary species. Not just going to the moon, not just sending up satellites, not just having the International Space Station, but actually having like a legit colony on the planet of Mars. I don't know about you, but when I lived in South Korea, it kind of gave me the creeps being that far away from the home country, from the motherland. When I think of being that far out, going to Mars either for exploration or to start a colony, it kind of gives me the creeps. So is Musk going to go out there? I don't think he's going to go. If and when we ever do get to Mars, that might be beyond his lifetime, but still, from what I've read, I think he's inspired others to try to go there. One final thing, a lot of successful people tend to struggle with their personal life. That was another part that was like pretty easy to understand. He has 6 children. I mean, I guess that's a good thing. They're going to be well educated. They're probably going to contribute a lot to society simply because of what their dad has instilled in them. I like the book. It was not the easiest book to read simply because I chose somebody that is not in my field, somebody quite different. I wish I could say I had a lot in common with Elon Musk. And then there's a few parts during the book I'm like, hey, but then you're like, well, no, maybe not. So Overall, my advice is if you want to actually learn real truth about Elon Musk, don't just go to the internet. Read the book. Ashley Vance put a whole lot of time into actually interviewing Musk, as well as interviewing all these people that he either knew in the past or people that he currently works with, both current employees and ex-employees. And a lot of them were like, yeah, I'll talk to you, which is great. You know, I'll end by saying this. If somebody were to write a biography about you, what would they say? What accomplishments have you guys made? Have you been willing to take those risks? Have you been willing to lose almost all of your money to accomplish a goal? Or better yet, have you contributed to someone else's life? Because that's really what's most important. It's not just about pleasing ourselves and consuming everything, but being a doer and an action taker, which I fully believe in. And I'm trying to get my students to think like that too. So biographies, what do you think? Do you love them, hate them? Are they easy to read? What biography have you read in the past? I'd love to hear about it. And what biography should I read about next? Probably a president, former president, or something like that. Thanks guys for watching. As so many of you know, my name is Jessica and I have an awesome online tutoring business that I'm really excited about and I'm really proud of. If you know anybody who has a middle or high school student who either needs extra help or who might be struggling, please contact me. Don't just think that I'm doing this on the side or that I'm a disgruntled public teacher who is just teaching online because of COVID. No, I'm actually doing this as a full-time career because I've figured out how to do it. So guys, thanks for listening and I'll see you guys again on JPEZ Talks. Don't forget to subscribe if you like this and if you haven't already.